Hello everybody, this is Lance Tomashiro. I am glad that you took some time out of your day to be here with Robert and myself, because what we're going to show you today could literally change the way that you put up websites. And I don't know if you're just getting started or if you've been around a long time, but one thing that we hear over and over and over again is that people struggle with getting a website that converts online. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. If you found yourself marketing on the internet, you probably landed on a simple web page or entered in your email address on a simple web page, and they told you all you have to do is find a product and then sell that. And they didn't tell you about all of these things like copywriting and swipe files and layout and PHP and HTML. And so you probably fumble around trying to figure out how to even get a simple web page online. Well, what's awesome is that today Robert's going to show you, well, how you can do it that way, but how we do it so that we can go from idea to literally having something online that we can start sending traffic to in just a few seconds. And I know that sounds like a tall order, but we don't think about things like copywriting. We don't think about how we're going to lay things out and get it to look the perfect way, because it's all built in for us. And so whether you're here or not because you already own Paper Template, hang in here, because we have some cool new features that have just been added in that can't be found anywhere else. And if you don't know what Paper Template is, you're definitely going to want to pay attention, because this is something that will change the way that you do business online. So close everything down, get rid of all of your other windows that you might have open, grab a pencil, grab a piece of paper, get ready to take some notes, because this really is something that is totally amazing and something that we've developed in-house for ourselves to use, which is why we know how good it works and how good it converts. So if you're ready, type SIMPLE into the question box and help me welcome our in-house professional simplified resident, Robert Flynn.
Awesome. I'm in-house. So, something that you just said there, Lance, was really eye-opening for me, and it's that, me and Lance, if you guys don't know, we're kind of computer geeks. So we could geek out. We could make the craziest system, the craziest way to go and edit some web pages and code all this stuff up, but we don't. Well, why? Well, because we're still human beings, and even though we could make things super crazy, super complicated, take a super long time, what's the point? Just because you can doesn't mean that you should all the time. I mean, like, if you could lift 500 pounds, it's not like you'd want to lift 500 pounds every single hour of the day, only if you had to get something done. And so, you might have heard, as, say, like an internet marketer, because, we're going to be jumping back and forth between maybe a little bit of computer geek stuff, but mostly marketing stuff. You might have heard these things like, well, a confused mind never buys, right? And what that means, well, if you have a web page with a Google ad to click on, and a video to watch, and an opt-in form to type into, and a button to buy, and someone goes to that web page, like, well, what the heck am I supposed to do? I'm really confused. And if you look at, and we're going to show some of these, the most money-making sites on the internet, they're the ones that are actually simple. There's really not that much to it. Now, why is that? Well, the behind-the-scenes thing is that if you have a web page with all this stuff, right, and whether you have a web page already or you don't have one yet, whatever niche it's in, if we're talking sales letter, opt-in page, whatever it is, you have all these little blocks, like a testimonial, thing on the sidebar, arrows. The most frustrating thing is that the more things you remove off a web page, the better it converts, whether we're talking opt-ins or sales. The more things you take off a web page, the better it converts. And so that's why when you look at sites and even think about it, sites like Amazon, eBay, YouTube, sure, they have lots of things to click on, but it's not a super cluttered site. It's actually a pretty simple white background piece of paper. And so we're going to show you that kind of stuff. But the first thing I want to talk to you about is, well, we all have these struggles. We all feel frustrated, like, we get things started, tough to finish things, or there's always the latest and greatest bright, shiny object. And so, all of our friends think that we just sit all day, sit in front of the computer. Our mom thinks that, we like change the world, or we're like this innovator. Society thinks we're a waste of space, just adding to the noise, retweeting. And we think that we're doing all these crazy things and integrating our YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook. And in reality, we're sitting at the computer, and that's fine, but let's get that stuff done and then get back to real life and have all that kind of stuff make money in the background while we focus on what really matters. And the other thing too is, you and I together are stuck in kind of a weird space because we definitely know a few things, right? We're not just like this gullible stuffing envelopes, researching the MLM kind of person, but we're also not a business owner. We're not Donald Trump. We don't have 1,000 employees, and so for a lot of us, we're all in this alone. Or maybe we have some virtual assistants, things like that. But for the most part, we're stuck in this area between being brand new and being someone with 10,000 employees. And we need to get this stuff done. And we're also stuck between being a marketer and a computer geek. And it's a real slippery slope. And if you ever mess around with, WordPress or HTML or CSS, it's a really slippery slope. You see, like in this thing, online marketers, like this guy's staring at the computer, but you look at these programmer guys, and it's like in every single case, you're staring at the computer. What my family thinks I do, stare at the computer all day. My friends think I do, stare at the computer. Society, stare at the computer. And we don't want to get that far because, if we're coding up the next version of HTML or CSS, that might make us feel good, but that doesn't make us money. I'd rather put something out there that makes money, and so I might have fun tinkering around, but it actually pays off. And then it's funny how when something actually makes you money, then it's interesting enough and fun enough for you to keep going. So, but then you see these people's different web pages. If you bring up the front page of Facebook or YouTube or things like that, it's like, whoa, this is a pretty simple web page. This must not have taken a long time, right? But then if you think back to, I don't know how long you've looked on YouTube or looked on Facebook, but over time, they make these small changes. And so when you look at the front page of some of these sites, I'll just bring it up, I guess. Bring up the front page of, say, like your Facebook kind of site. It's like, well, this didn't happen overnight, right? They tweak stuff, they added stuff in the sidebar. So you see just the tip of the iceberg, but you don't see all the different things that went into, tweaking and testing and having all these habits and just making small changes every single day to make sites like Facebook more addictive, or to make them more useful, or to make it go faster, or things like that. And so that's basically what you want on a smaller scale. You want to get to the end, and you want to get to the point where everyone just sees this tiny little iceberg. They don't have to see all the work that went in. They don't have to see how the sausage was made, right? So the shortest path to making money. Let's think about this for 1 second. If you want to, you want to make some of these website sales, this thing called passive income, or making money while you sleep, all that stuff. Well, if you want that and you don't have a website, well, then what are your chances of making money? Go ahead and type it in the question box, right? So in a sales letter, we look for this thing called a conversion rate. Like if 1% of people come and buy, 2% of people come and buy to our website, that's good. But if we don't have a website at all, what's our conversion rate? How many people can buy? If 1,000 people come to our site, how many people can buy? 0, right? There you go. 0% of people can buy from us. So what if we have the coolest looking website? It's like this real slick template. It's a responsive theme. It's cached. It's split tested. You have all this stuff. You have the sales letter. You have the best headline, the best bullet points, the slick video. But then there's nothing to buy. So then what are your chances of making money? Well, it's still 0, right? So even if you had the ugliest, grossest, dumbest website online and it had a buy button, well, then at least you have some chance of making money, and then you can make those baby steps and improve from there. But I do feel your pain, because then you have, I know you all have this idea for what you want your website to be and what you want it to look like and say, but then you're like, well, I don't know how to make it look the way I want it to look, and even if I did, I wouldn't know what to say. I heard I have to have like a catchy name, a catchy headline, all this stuff. And then on top of that, you might geek out about, how like, well, that image looks really cool, or I put a lot of work into that video, but what excites you isn't what excites everyone else and your customers and prospects and all that stuff. And you notice how Facebook, it's kind of an ugly site, right? We look at all this stuff and it's like, well, it's got like different kinds of fonts, different kind of ugly, like this gray stuff. It's an ugly site. Well, the reason is that for some reason, ugly sells. And you see these really good-looking, beautiful web pages, and they don't make money. And then you see these ugly, crappy web pages, and those are the ones that are like your Amazon, your eBay, your Craigslist kind of sites. So Even though I'm going to be showing you some ugly web pages today, they're the ones that make the most money, and we don't want to be a geek today. Okay, we don't want to geek out about, well, how'd they make, what font is that? How'd they do that drop shadow? Don't worry about that. What's actually important is looking at things from a marketing point of view and what they're doing. So it's like if we were to let's bring up a site like HuffingtonPost.com. That's a blog, right? And I mean, this is a pretty they have a lot of funding, they have a lot of employees. They could make any kind of website they want, right? They could hire as many people they want to code up the craziest thing, design the crazy thing. I mean, they got a freaking ticker tape. They got this giant centered bolded red headline. We'll get into that later. But for the most part, it's just a white web page. And sure, they have columns and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, there's not much to it. And even the text is kind of ugly. But they tried out different things. They said, well, let's try big text, small text, red text, blue text, and they stick with what's actually making them the most money. So then you even look at, you're like, okay, well, that's a blog, whatever. Let me look at some of these fancy, like, Web 2.0 kind of sites. Like, have you heard of this stuff, Dropcam? Me and Lance have some of these. Are like security cameras, like for your house and stuff like this. And you're like, well, see, this is way different. They have giant text, they have pictures. But you scroll through, and you're like, well, for the most part, it's just a plain white piece of paper. And it's like, and once again, going to the iceberg thing, they've gone to as much trouble as they can to remove as many things as possible. So it's just like a clean, simple thing. If you want to go and buy it, you can. If you want to go and look at it, you can. But for the most part, just a plain white piece of paper. And instead of geeking out about, well, how'd they get that rounded border on there, we say, well, let's just look at what they were trying to accomplish with their marketing, and they're trying to make like this cool thing and show you, like, take it out of the box, plug it in, it's simple. It wouldn't make sense if they're trying to sell something and trying to say how simple it is if their web page was a mess, right? So then we could look at, so basically, I liked this fan page on Facebook, and then they started these other people started advertising to me. Funny how that is, right? You like one thing, someone else runs ads to you, and this guy has like a whole home security system thing. And I'm always kind of curious when people are in different niches to kind of see what everyone else is doing. So this is nothing to do with internet marketing, nothing to do with WordPress. It's all just like these things that stick onto your wall, and like, it's like your like an alarm system basically. And I scroll through and I'm thinking, well, this is just a plain white piece of paper. There ain't much to it. There's no real slick video. There's not stuff that like kind of pops out at you. There's basically like copywriting stuff, right? They say, well, the competition costs all this money, we're cheaper, we're cheaper. The competition has all these things that you want to avoid, wire technology, but we have all these better things. This is called a before and after, right? So we look at this not from a geek point of view, like what shade of blue is this, but we look at it like what were they trying to accomplish? They were trying to, and notice how even like they make the other guys look gray and dingy, and they're nice and clean and white. And they go and they say, well, this isn't for you if you own a mansion, but if you own anything other than a mansion or a shopping mall, then you got to use our stuff. So it's just funny how if you look at things from a marketing point of view instead of a geek point of view, that we have all these surprising revelations. And I can go on and on about even, there's this thing called WordPress, and they do like WordPress backups, same kind of thing, right? And there's less text, but for the most part, it's like it's a plain white piece of paper. You scroll down, they might have different columns and things like that, but the whole point is start at the top, some kind of headline to get you excited, and at the bottom, a thing to buy. So you can go on, and what they all have in common is, well, they have a plain white piece of paper. They do some kind of a demo, and then focus not necessarily on, well, we have the best quality batteries, we have the best quality sensors. You're not going to see on, say, like this WordPress thing, like we back up on a RAID 6 system. They focus on, well, about you, right? About what you can do with it, not about them and not about what it is. Because no one cares how hard you worked on stuff. I mean, I wish that was true. I mean, me and Lance do geeky programming stuff, and sometimes it takes all night to do something. It takes all week just to get all the bugs out, right? But no one cares about that. They just care about, well, does it work? and how can I use it? No one cares how many years of painstaking trial and error and research it took you. They care what's in it for me. They care about what do I need for it right now and why are you better than the alternative, so that the only decision left to make is to go ahead and buy from you. So, I mean, we kind of flipped through a few web pages there, and I mean, all the things they have in common is, well, sure, they all have like a button to click on and buy. Sure, they all have the same kind of like legalese. Like if I was going to go and bring up like some of these, I'm sure if I go like to the bottom, they'll all have like a phone number, or like their privacy policy thing, or a contact form. But above all, everything else, it's a plain white piece of paper. So if I'm going to bring up Amazon, if I'm going to bring up eBay, if I'm going to bring up YouTube, well, what do they all have in common? Plain white piece of paper. Amazon, plain white piece of paper. YouTube, plain white piece of paper. And they might kind of put a video on there, but it's still nothing. It's not freaking rocket surgery. It's just a plain white freaking piece of paper. White piece of paper. And if someone had told me just that alone, that would have shortcut me a year or two of geeking around with like these mini site designs. I mean, should I bring up one? All right. Let me show you this one. Looks like crap, right? But if I change this and just put a plain white background, it still would look like, well, I can't tell if this was made a year ago or 10 years ago. But with the graphics, like, okay, this was made years and years and years ago. So white piece of paper wins out every time, not just from just like the evergreen factor of it, but also from everyone we know who split tested plain white piece of paper versus all kinds of crazy and wacky and clean and advanced website designs. White piece of paper wins. And so that's just one thing to get for you to just get out of the way, and then you can make like these baby steps and just kind of tweak around your site. And so I know that, early on for me, I used to have a giant logo on my site. And when I just tried out a smaller logo, my conversion rate, which means that, X number of people come to my site and then some of them buy, that percentage went up. More people bought from the same people coming to my site. Then I realized, well, certain fonts are better, and I realized that if I had a giant centered red headline, or if I had something like, if I have like a web page, like here's papertemplate.com, I noticed that, well, first of all, things like if I had a video playing automatically, that helped. I noticed things like if I want someone to buy from me right now, right? And they want to do this thing like, okay, cool, paper template. I used to say, well, click on this, it'll take you right over to the order form. But now it drops people down to the bottom of the page so that they can go and see exactly what they're buying. Just a little tweak like that made a huge, huge difference. So, and having like a guarantee certificate helps, like a certificate like this. And you know what I also realized, and it's somewhere on this site, but somewhere on the site, there was a freaking guarantee certificate. So it's not just one of those cheesy internet marketing things. Maybe it's in the features somewhere. But somewhere on the site, should have had it ready to go and open. But somewhere on the site is there's like a guarantee certificate, just like maybe they're split testing it. All right. But so it's funny how we see these things and we always think, oh well, this plain white web page, this is one of those internet marketing things. But I mean, if you took out the top corners. If I went to, say, set up an affiliate program, which is also a paper template kind of web page, what's the difference? Top corners. But it's still the plain white piece of paper that outsells everything else. So what I realized early on was that if I started from a template that I already knew worked instead of from scratch, I would not only save a bunch of time, but I would also have a starting point where I knew, like, more or less, that's one less thing to worry about. Then I can say, okay, well, now I know that the design's okay. Now I just need to focus on, well, things like headline and text, things like that. So it's one less thing to worry about. And, all these people, they have all these different opinions, but here's my question to you. Is if you have a web page like this, or maybe your web page, what if 1 million people came to it today? Well, you'd sure as heck clean it up, right? You'd sure as heck make sure that it's totally clear what you want them to do. You'd sure as heck make sure that the buttons worked. You'd make sure the buttons were giant and had a border around them so that everyone could see exactly what it was. You'd make this as simple as possible so you wouldn't lose. If 1 million people came, you didn't want to lose 500,000 people just because you had like one little thing that was weird on there. So you'd panic if a bunch of people came to your site and make it 100% obvious what to do. I know this was the case for me. Is I would have things like I'd have, say, like an opt-in page, right? And early on, I'd have this super long, I'd have the button really tiny, but then as soon as I started getting traffic, I was like, holy crap, I need to make this super simple. I need to make the button hard to miss. And so it's funny how all these different things show up when suddenly you're thinking in terms of what if I lose all kinds of people just because my opt-in page is too long. So you just make these little changes, little tiny tweaks here and there. You have it up and running and working, and so people can opt in, they can buy right away, and then you can just tweak in there. And most people who fail in their dream fail not from the lack of ability, but from lack of commitment, right? It's not like you don't know how to make a web page. It's just that it takes too long, you get bored, distracted, shiny object, all that stuff. And let me show you what I mean. Is I know that, and maybe this was you at some point, I'm sure not right now, but at some point you thought, you know what? I can just make a web page. It can't be that hard, you know. I'll just go and I'll go to the bookstore and I'll get some book on it. I'll just flip through it in an afternoon. I'll figure it all out. So let me kind of show you. Maybe you'll laugh at me. Let me show you what my thought process was when this happened. I go, okay, there's this thing called a control panel, and there's a thing called a file manager, and so I guess I'll make a folder, right? So I can just like kind of have like a test folder and mess around there. So I'll go new folder, and I'll say let's make this template. I'll go in there, and then I'll say I'm going to have a new file. And if I flip through my my book, like how to code HTML in 2 days or something like that, I'll say, well, they say to make this index.html file, right? And then I want to say I'll edit this, and then I'll ignore most of this, and I'll just say this is a test web page, right? So I'll save that. And so what I've just done is if I go to paper template/template, this loads up. Oh, whoops, membership new is where I'm at. Then, oh, cool. This is a test web page. And I don't know if you've ever gone down this path, but I know that at least for me, like it took me an hour or two just to get to this point, just to be like, okay, so I need to name this index.html, and I can type in whatever I want, but then this comes out to that folder. So then I say, okay, well, but I can't just make some sales off of this crappy looking font, this crappy tiny text. So then I say, okay, well, I heard somewhere that I need to have a headline. I don't know what that'll be, so I'll just say headline goes here. I'll say subheadline goes here, and then I'll say I'm going to start typing my web page, and then I'll have a buy button once I figure that out. So I'll have all these things. I'm like, well, cool. This is kind of like a Word document, right? Go back and refresh. I'm like, oh crap, this is all in just in one big long thing. So then I go flip back to my book, try to find the right chapter, and I say, okay, so there's these like paragraph things. So that's something I can do. So I can save that. I can go back and I say, okay, so now I figured out maybe here's another hour wasted to split these up. And then I say, well, now how do I make these headline things giant? And I say, well, maybe we say this is like a H1, like a heading 1. Maybe if the book says that, heading 2 kinds of things, save that, go back, and we say, okay, so, I mean, we're making little baby steps, right? But I want to make this centered. I want to make this like a better font. So then I might say font face equals Arial. Is that like from Little Mermaid or something? I'll see if I save the changes there. Okay, so this is kind of starting to work out. I might switch back and say font color is red. Maybe that'll work. Let me save that. Switch out there. Okay, it's kind of getting somewhere. And I can say, well, maybe the textbook says make this a center kind of thing. So let me save those changes. Go back. Okay, so we kind of got like a center headline. I mean, this can't be too hard, right? But then I say, well, all these web pages have like this border thing. So then I might go and like read all these chapters and say, well, there's like this div whatchamajiggy, and they say to make it like 600 px, whatever px is. Is that like p90x? So that did something. And it says, well, let me like center all this stuff. So let me like save that. Go back. So that kind of did some. I don't really like how like everything's centered, but I mean I can work around that. And then they say, oh, maybe make like this border solid and black. We save that one. Go back. That didn't even do anything. Oh, because I gotta like get the semicolon just right, the colon just right. Go back there. Okay, so this is kind of working out. And then now we're about 6 hours in just to have a web page that looks like we designed it ourselves. It's still not going to look great. I still got to figure out how to make the border not look like crap. Still got to figure out how to put that buy button in there. Still got to figure out how to make the headline different and fix the spacing and all that. It's like, I didn't sign up to be a freaking graphic designer. But this is what most people go through, right? Most people go through, let me make something completely new. Let me start from scratch. I'm so smart. I'll read all these books on it. It's like, but you didn't get into this business to become a website designer. You came to just to sell some stuff, right? And even if you get through all this stuff and you're so tired and burnt out and distracted by something else, you say, well, now I got to figure out what to freaking write for my headline. So kind of a frustrating place to be. And what we just did is a term that Lance and I, as programmers, use called going down the rabbit hole. We said, I just want to make a web page. It looks so easy. I heard about like maybe there's like a front page or Dreamweaver, or do they even make that anymore? I'll just code in my hands. And then you got to figure out how to upload files. You got to figure out what's this HTML tag stuff, bolding, fonts, colors, centers, boxes, borders. Oh my. And then even at the end, it still looks like crap, and you still don't even know what to type on there. Then you say, okay, I did some more research. I heard about all this. I don't know. There's like a Joomla thing or like a WordPress thing. WordPress sounds good, all right. So the cool thing about WordPress is they say, well, I can just go and I can let's see, I can just go and like edit some stuff. I can just kind of point and click. So that's kind of along the right track. But then you say, but I got to figure out like what theme I'm going to use. I got to secure it. Do I have to edit child themes? Now I'm back to programming again. Only it's even worse because now I'm figuring out PHP code, if you even know what that is, versus HTML stuff. And even if you get past all that, then you hear back from the marketers say, fine, I switch into programming geek mode, back into marketing mode, and they say, well, you know what you need? A countdown timer. You know what you need? A pop-up. You know what you need? A video. So I think, I should just quit. I got to have a freaking PhD in all this. Well, the thing, I mean, I get it, and if it took you 20 minutes to brush your teeth, I don't think you'd still do it. So we don't want to do something that always takes us all this time just to get back to the starting point. Because I mean, having just a simple web page, that's a starting point. That's not the end. Then it's up to you to go ahead and tweak and put in your headlines and stuff. So you're way more likely to get anything done if it just takes you a couple of minutes. Not 20 minutes, but I mean, I'm saying, like 1, 2, or 3 minutes like Lance promised. And so I want to give you all these shortcuts. And so one of the shortcuts that I discovered was this thing called a swipe file. Right? All these people said, well, what you got to do is find all the headlines that interest you and the ones that make you buy. Right? And they might say like, they'll say like, oh, and read like Cosmo magazine, look at the covers. But even something like this, if you say, well, if this made me opt in, this headline, maybe I'll use this revealed thing, right? Or I say, new free video exposes the dirty little secret that allows anyone to, and then substitute the fully loaded website for play guitar, for lose weight, things like that. The other cool thing is you should use WordPress because you just click around, you don't have to edit files, but there's that danger of going down the rabbit hole and researching all this stuff like themes. And there's some really common sense stuff that I just overlooked early on, and one is this thing called the one sheet. So here's what I mean by that is like here's the site papertemplate.com, and you go to the bottom and there's this table of exactly what you get. And all the successful websites have that. Like this Simply Safe, when you go to the freaking shop, and it's like, all right, fine, I just want to get it, and I go, let me figure out what this package detail is, and they say bullet point, here's exactly what you get, right? And yeah, if I want to get it, I just go and order it, and then I can just add it to the cart, and I can just get it right now, right? So they all have the one sheet, and you should too. But then you go down this other rabbit hole of marketing and copywriting, and they say, well, if you don't know what color a headline should be, you should just split test that. And what they mean by that is they don't know, and you don't have there's not enough years in your lifetime to split test every single thing. Or they say things like, well, you should run a paid webinar. Well, that sounds like a sales letter on a product to me. Or they say learn copywriting or hypnosis, or they say hide these little words in there that like look one way and sound another way, or have this rhythm, or throw out your whole sales letter and put a video on there instead, or make your website mobile responsive. And I mean, Lance and I see people running around in circles all the time because they don't know this one secret. And here's the secret is you need to separate the forest from the trees. So here's what I mean is changing your headline from a bright red to dark red, it ain't going to make a difference. It's not going to be the difference between making $1,000,000 and not making $1,000,000. But what does help is if you have something that's kind of weird, so like if we have, say like on this setup affiliate program, if there's one little thing that's kind of weird, like let's say there was this table, right? And here's where we were like having some proof elements is what it's called. And we total up these different things we say. If this didn't look right, if this didn't total up the right way, or if we didn't have these colors to make it clear that this is the total, you lose people. Or if we said one weird thing that didn't really make sense, then it's like everyone reads down, and they all click off at this one bottleneck. Or there's just like the elephant in the room, and we say things like, well, here's the thing about affiliate programs, and there's always a but. If we don't tackle what the but is, like, well, don't you have to set up this software? Don't you have to have joint venture connections? We address that, and then we don't lose people in that part in the copy, if that makes sense. And the point of all this is that you can get whatever kind of web page you're making just about right, close enough, and still makes money. All right. And the thing about these guys who cop out with split testing, it takes a while, and you have to like wait for a certain number of sales, and even then you're never really sure. And even then you never really know why something converts better. Why does a red headline convert better than the blue headline? I don't freaking know, but it's just one of those things where enough people have tested it that that's good enough for me as a starting point. And then you might say, well, okay, well, I'm going to have a copywriter do all this. I'm going to do it right. I'm going to pay them 50 grand and they'll take 5% royalties. But they don't know anything about weight loss or playing guitar or the stock market. They're just guessing about what sounds good and what looks good, right? At the end of the day, we don't have that much time, because I found this graphic here where you could be a rich person, live in a giant house, poor person, live in a hut, but we're all going to the same place. We're all going in the grave. So you got to make the most of it and do as much as you can in the shortest amount of time, right? We don't want to have to research all this coding, HTML, copywriting, persuasion, hypnosis, marketing stuff. We just want some shortcuts. Easy shortcut here. Features and benefits. A feature is what it is. So if I tell you I have this WordPress plugin, and if I tell you that it runs on PHP version 5.7, and if it runs on a Pentium 3 computer, all that stuff, that's geek stuff. That's just what it is. And that stuff will kind of like hide in there, but we won't lead with that. We'll lead with what it does. So we say we want to use this plugin to make a sales funnel in 5 minutes. We lead with we want to use an affiliate program to make all this money in a short amount of time. This security system thing, the guy, he doesn't go into the details of the batteries and stuff. He says easy to install, doesn't need a phone line. Here's all the cool things you'll do with it, right? Not just let me tell you about how much range it has, right? And you do need both. You hook them with the benefits, the possibilities, get their imagination going, all the uses, and then once it's time to buy and it's like, well, that sounds good, I just need a little more information. Now we're reassuring about the features, and yes, it has this thing I told you about. That's where we have this thing called the one sheet, right? So this would all make sense, and enough talking, let's do something, right? If you think we should do something, go in the question mark and type in "oh yeah" and give me exactly one exclamation point if you can, all right? So we're going to make this thing called a one-click optimization. If that sounds good, say "oh yeah." Here we go, "oh yeah." So we're going to make a one-click opt-in page because this is a really simple way to start. And you don't have to worry about copywriting. We're not worrying about, I got to ask for a sale, got to make a payment button. We're not going to worry about Facebook or saying, don't worry, unsubscribe anytime. We won't spam you. We're just going to make a headline, 3 bullet points, a call to action, and a sign up form. All right. And if we want to go ahead and call out their name, we can. But let's do it. Let's make this thing called an opt-in page. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to go to, let me just close some stuff down. So you all, maybe you've seen this, maybe not, right? A WordPress site, right? And this is a place where normally you can have what's called a blog and make some blog entries, but we're going to use our special WordPress plugin called Paper Template, which you can get at papertemplate.com, to make these plain piece of paper websites that you can just click around and do really quickly and easily. So what we can do is, I'm going to go to my plugins, and I already have this Paper Template installed in here. I'm going to activate this thing, and so once this is on here, we can manage these piece of paper looking web pages, and you can make it, if you want, to take over your whole blog or just take over some of it. Actually, give me 1 second. Some stuff got in the trash here. Restore all that. So basically, nothing's changed on the site, right? If we still want to have this blog here, we can. But what I can do is I can go over down to the lower left-hand side, and I can, well, let me just go here. Paper template, we see we have these things. I can say I want to make a new landing page, and I want to make it an opt-in page, right, where I ask someone to join a list for me. So I just, in one click, didn't do anything else, and check out what happened. It says, here's my opt-in page, here's my headline, and so now all I have to do is fill in the blank. Isn't this, and I guess let me just see what we have right here. So I can click on this publish. I can change the places at to /free. So now if I go to my site /free and I view the page, just by clicking one button, well, now I've got this thing where it's got the piece of paper, all the font stuff that, I mean, let's be honest, it looks ugly, but it converts the best. And so then all I have to do is just edit the headline, and if I don't know what to do for headline, freaking delete it, right? So then I can say, so who else wants to discover the secrets to playing, or I guess, so this site's called Membership Newbie, right? To setting up a membership site in record time. If I don't have time to make a subheadline, delete that dang subheadline. So we can update that. And it's just like editing a Word document, right? We don't have to upload files, edit stuff, but we also have the power of doing all these different kinds of things. And then we can scroll down, and then there's this this thing called the call to action. And if you know what an autoresponder is, you can just paste in your autoresponder code in there. And what it does is if we refresh this, then refresh it. Then it adds our opt-in form. I don't know what's going on. Okay, yeah. So it adds our opt-in form right in this area if we put in a real thing from our autoresponder company. But pretty simple, right? Plain white piece of paper, nothing else to do on this web page other than to just go ahead and fill in that dang form. And so, I mean, an honest question for you is, well, how long does it take for you to set up a website? Well, I'm not even going to ask because you don't even want to think about that, right? How many hours, days, and weeks to choose the template, agonize over which words. Now, how long should it take you? It should just take you a couple of minutes, because we can go and we can edit this page, and we can say, well, you know what? I'm going to go back, and now I've decided to add a headline. I can go and I can choose. I can say, well, I'll choose this one, and then we'll say how to end this common problem forever, and then get this other result in the process. So I can just click around and choose stuff, and then get it all figured out right there. So you can do it in just a few minutes, and I know that you're trying to make it perfect, but instead it's just to answer the next question. So what I mean by that is, well, if you look at this, instead of saying I gotta like cover all these areas, it's just, you just gotta check off the next few boxes, right? So the first question is, well, where am I going to put my opt-in page? All right, cool. What's the headline going to be? Cool. What are the bullet points? Cool. What's going to be the opt-in form? All right, I got that too. You just knock these things out one after another and get to the next logical step. Because, I mean, you have a choice. You could be an employee, which means that you're looking for problems, or you could be an entrepreneur, which means you're looking for solutions. And it's crazy how some people feel that spending a couple years as an entrepreneur is a long time to make it all work, but they don't feel that 40 years as an employee, a 9 to 5 job, they feel like that's not a long time to stay broke. There's always going to be problems. There's always going to be growing pains. My goal for you right now today in this online workshop is to get you to where you need to go. All right? And just to knock out these problems. And I mean, what's stopping you from setting up a website might be like the technology or like the layout, HTML or WordPress. And even if you got that, you saw that, well, then you have to kind of figure out the copywriting piece of it. And then maybe you say, well, I've heard I need to have a free gift, so I need to figure out what kind of product I need to make. And you look up and you find all these solutions. And then there's always more than one answer, isn't there? If you search Google for how to make a web page, how to make income online, what's the best WordPress sales letter plugin, you find all these choices, all these possible ways to go along, and it's really easy to get stuck in where the geeks are. Where the geeks say, well, make a cached WordPress site. Or the copywriting nerds say, read these old books from the 1800s 7 different times. Or they say, print out this article from the Wall Street Journal and like write it down and copy it by hand. Or write down 300 possible things you could say just to narrow down the one. And scribble down all the headlines from Cosmo magazine. Like they'll say to go to like Google Images, right? And you say Cosmo magazine covers. And then, so there's all this. And so you say like, well, let me say, so if they say, so let me just write down like, this sex position increases female orgasm by 56%. 25 times you shouldn't apologize. And they say that, well, by writing all these things down, I guess like the words like absorb into you so that when you can say like, this WordPress plugin increases conversions by 56%. Right? Just so like I guess you like absorb the words. That sounds like it takes a whole dang lifetime. I'd rather just click around and get it done. I mean, you tell me what you want, but I'd rather just click around and get it all done. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this kind of web page that's called a webinar sign-up. That's what we're on right now, but it's one of those things where you can get someone to opt in. So we saw how there's like this opt-in form right here. Right, opt-in form right here, where they can like put in a thing from your autoresponder. But let's make it where they can register for like a live training session. Sounds way different, right? But how about this? If you had a web page that says enter your name and email to get a free report, right? That's one thing. So then what if a web page says enter your name and email to get a free video? What's the difference? If I bring up, what do I have? Like this backup creator cash flow site. I have this opt-in page, and it says, so here's a video, but if this was a report, what's the difference? This just would say report instead of saying video. So then along those lines, if we ask someone to sign up for what's called a webinar, what's the difference? There's none. It's one word. Instead of saying report, you say video or you say webinar. So it's just the same thing. It's still an opt-in page. Now here's what's also kind of cool though, is that well, you can, using our plugin, make it so that if someone's already a subscriber of yours, they click one button and they join that webinar. Or they click one button and now they're registered for that webinar. Another possibility, just to kind of get your gears spinning a little bit, is there's a thing called a retargeting pixel. Have you ever seen this? Where like if say you're on like Facebook or something. Let me bring up the homepage of Facebook. So you go on Facebook and you're like browsing through stuff, and then on the sidebar there's maybe I got to click into something. There's like, I guess they always change it up, but sometimes there's like ads in the sidebar, and sometimes like some of these ads just follow you around no matter where you were going. Maybe my screen's not the right size, but like these ads, kind of maybe I'm not getting served ads right now, but the ads like kind of follow you around. Have you ever noticed that? Like if you're looking at a car, you're looking to like book a plane ticket somewhere, then suddenly you're seeing like an ad for that same car over in the sidebar. Kind of weird. It's weird I'm not seeing it. Maybe they like me not showing me ads today. But you see these ads just follow you around the whole internet. Well, that's called retargeting. And basically the way this works is, well, you go to a web page like this one, and then there's a little itsy bitsy little thing called a pixel. Oh, I think that's it right there, actually, that little square. And then it gets the person cookied, and then it just follows them around and talks to them about Backup Creator or about Paper Template wherever they go. So what if you had a upcoming webinar, you stuck a pixel on that page so that now you can remind them to keep on attending. You can remind them to watch the replay or remind them to buy, whether you're sending them an email or whether they're browsing Facebook or they're on some of their web page like TV Guide or something. Those ads, follow them all around. And if you host your own webinar sign up page, you can send Facebook ads there. You can have affiliates promote it. And if you make sales off that webinar, affiliates make money. And even, here's what's also kind of cool, you can have a webinar sign up page, right? And then after the webinar is done, you just switch that over to the recording. So if, because I mean, I know that I've done this, right? Like I go to these live training sessions and I'm like an hour late or I'm like a day late and I'm like, it says, oh, the webinar's over. Well, now you can put a video right there. So even if someone clicks there late, then they can still see what it is they missed. So I mean, enough talking, let's do it, right? So what I want to do, what I want to show you is a little behind the scenes stuff. Okay, so I'm logged in to this thing called GoToWebinar. If this is unfamiliar, that's fine. But we can schedule a webinar, and I'm going to make my training session that says create your entire one-click WordPress funnel in just a few minutes. All right, so I'll make this and I'll schedule this. If this looks unfamiliar, don't worry about it. I'm just making a live training session, getting this thing scheduled, right? So you're probably seeing this where it says, okay, well, it's going to be on this date, and I can right click and I can go to this web page, and it looks like this, right? And so this is, I mean, this is one of these things where, funny, once again, even GoToWebinar has a plain white piece of paper looking template. The problem with this, though, is just that we can't drop a pixel, we can't put a video on here. Maybe I want to, and it's also not one click. So here's the coolest thing that I want to show you is, well, first of all, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the webinar link, I'll right click, and I'll copy this. All right, so this way I have this web address, which I'll need in a second. Okay, so usually you'd pass around this whatever this big long link is, and the only problem with this is if someone's already a subscriber of yours, it's like they have to fill it in again. And I know that I don't always do that because I'm like, well, what am I signing up for again? But what we can do is I can go to my WordPress site here, okay? And I can go to paper template and I can say I want to make a new landing page for a webinar sign up. So I click on this one thing and then see this pop up? What is the link for people to register for your upcoming webinar? Well, I'm glad you asked because I happen to have that link saved. So I'm just going to paste in this exact thing, click on OK, give it a second, and check out what it did. It went out there and grabbed the name of the webinar, the time of the webinar, and if I publish this, let me see what comes up here. So check this out. I mean, it looks kind of like a GoToWebinar, right? But I have total control over what I want to do, and I can do something like this. I can say comma, and I can say I want to put in someone's first name in there. So I can click on Update. I can go to this web page and see how it kind of put my first name in there. Create your entire funnel in just a few minutes, Robert. So I can go and I can scroll down, and so here's like the URL for this page. Here's the link to pass around. And so I can say, well, if I want to invite, say like Lance to this webinar, I can just right click and copy this. I can go over to this, and paste this in, and I can change this to Lance, and now it just sticks Lance's name right there in the headline. It's like, oh, okay, this is just for me. I should definitely sign up for this. And the other cool thing is, not to get too fancy, but if, let's see, let me change the columns here. So if you have this thing called an autoresponder, it has a feature called a mail merge, right? And so what you can do is if you use Infusionsoft or GetResponse or whatever it is, it can stick in someone's name and email address right there in the link. So basically, if I was to send out a link to this upcoming webinar that we had, I could go there and I could say, and it would just kind of insert in someone's name and email address. So this would be the link that your subscriber would click on. They click on this, and boom, now they're already registered. Now they already have that pixel dropped all just from clicking one single link. Pretty cool, and that's built into this page we have, or this plugin I should say, called Paper Template, where you can just click around and you can say, well, let me just create these different kinds of web pages. Let me leave my main blog alone, or I can create a piece of paper looking template, or I create an opt-in page, sales letter, webinar template. I can just click around and it's all done. And so I don't know about you, but as soon as I can just even though, yeah, I could go and code and all this crazy stuff, if I just have this right tool to make it simple and easy and fast, well, then I can just shortcut all these bumps in the road. Like, well, yeah, I've heard of that thing called WordPress. Give me something new. Well, why are you going to use something new if WordPress actually works? Or like the self-doubting, like this will never work, or I'm going to copy everything online, or I'll be an innovator and invent something completely new, only if something's not new, right? So if you have something like, say, like a video or Google Hangout, you just paste in the same kind of code there, have all these balls in the air spread too thin, or you rather like change the world and make friends and money, well, you can actually make both, right? You can put out membership site, webinar, opt-in page, product, make money, and also get people buy and use your product and love you as well. So 6 things you can do is have a real vision for what you want instead of drifting. Focus on the big picture and not on how do I edit CSS code, and instead what am I going to do with this plugin? What am I going to have for my marketing? What's my funnel going to be? Just click around and make these different kinds of web pages. It's always good just to have some downtime or delete the clutter or just make a website machine that works for you instead of being a chore. Make a opt-in page, that's done. Put up a sales letter, that's done. And in anything that you're focusing on, ask yourself, can I apply this right away? Or am I just collecting stuff just in case? And I mean, that's always the frustrating thing that I came across with, things like traffic or copywriting. Like, they teach you all these fancy headlines just in case, but it's like, well, I don't want just in case. I want to use it right now. And so, as you saw for even things like an opt-in page, right? We can go and edit that page around, and I can just grab whatever headline I want to use, boom, drop that right in, that's done. Or even if I'm on a web page or I see like the latest Cosmo magazine cover and I say, hey, that's kind of a cool headline, I can go to my settings for Paper Template and see how we have our SWAT file, and I can say, I'll just paste this in, right? Right click and copy, right click and paste, and I'll save that. And so I've stored this headline that I like in the swipe file. And then if I go back and edit my opt-in page again, and I say, all right, well, let me put in my headline, I can grab this one right here, the one about the fully loaded website. I can just grab the one that I wanted to use. So pretty simple, and it's without geeking out about all these HTML, CSS, child theme kind of stuff. We just use this tool called Paper Template. It allows you to just click around and put in point-and-click headlines and make a site without having a FTP or transfer or HTML. And you can use it for just one page, or you can have it take over your entire blog. So what you can do is you can say, well, here's my site, membership newbie /free. But I have stuff on the front page. But if I wanted to, I can say, make this the front page of my site. And just by checking this box, then that will put that opt-in page in the very front of my site. So I can save that one. And so now it's like if someone goes to just the .com on my site, now that's the only thing they see. So you can have it either way. You can have it take over the whole site or have it just be one little arm of the site. It has built-in legal pages. You can make as many sales letters or opt-in pages as you want. You can change around the way that it looks. So for example, if you say, well, this looks a little bit dated, what I want to do is I want to make this instead be more modern. So I can just change one little thing there and then view the page again. And then what this will give me is this more, I don't even know what this is called, but like a more like modern age kind of font and look and feel. All right. So you can edit this from anywhere, and you can do this, any place you have WordPress, you just install it, and then it all works. And then you can switch the navigation around. So like you just saw, if I want to make the opt-in page on the front, or I want to make a sales letter on the front, and then because you use our plugin, it's all this thing called mobile responsive, which is a fancy way of saying that it fits on an iPhone screen, fits on a iPad screen. Looks a little different because it has to, like kind of all fit in there, but it also works and fits on your web browser. And so what I mean by that is, so you see how like I'm kind of like zooming in and the sides disappear kind of abruptly, but if I zoom out, if there's room for the sides, they all go in there, and I guess I can even like squish the window and do some of this other like fancy stuff. See if like if I squish the window a little bit much, now it looks more like an iPhone size screen. If I make it wider, the actual thing pops back out. So any way you look at it, and there's no way, I mean, you have to like code all that kind of stuff by hand. It'd take you forever just to even figure out how to do it. So it has the best of both worlds. All these things that, if geeks made it who weren't marketers, they'd add all this crap that you wouldn't even need, right? But as marketers, we actually have these things that we wished existed. And so, I mean, for example, let me show you something. We can go to our website here, and have you ever had to do this thing called cloaking a link? So you can go to like this thing called redirects, and we can say, well, if I want to promote, say like a site like Membership Cube, I can say, well, when someone goes to membershipnewbie.com/cube, it sends them off to a site called with my affiliate link, right? And so we can just save this, and we can make this, and we can play around with this and say, well, at first I want to have an opt-in page there, or when I do a webinar, that's there. And then after the webinar is done, I want to put the replay there. And even after that's done, then I want to move it off and send it off to an affiliate link. And then when I'm done with that, I want to actually put a web page there. Well, you don't have to know about how to do a redirect. You just go to this tab, say when someone goes to membershipnewbie/cube, it takes them there. So I go and click on that link, and then boom, it just sends them off to some other site right there. So that's one of those things where geeks wouldn't have thought of that, but marketers need that kind of thing all the time. You can build what's called a swipe file we showed you, where you can just like add your own or use our headlines. There's a thing called shortcodes or snippets, right? So basically, we talked about the thing called retargeting pixel, and maybe sometimes I might have a web page with multiple buttons, and I'll say like here's my $197 button, so $197 button from PayPal. And I might just have all these things I just want to easily drop into my site, right? And so I might go to Facebook, and I'm going to go really fast here, but it's okay. We're going to say create an audience. We're going to say a custom audience from our website. I'll create that audience. Membership newbie. And maybe you've seen this, where like you can say, Facebook says drop all this gobbledygook on your site, and then now it will cookie them, and now it will run ads to them over and over again, right? So it's like this is those ads that follow people around the internet, the retargeting. So we can right click and copy that, but I don't want to have to like figure out where this goes and fits on my website. I might have to use it in different places, so I can call this, I'll just say retargeting. Paste that in there, so all this scary stuff safely tucked away. And then what I can do is I'll go back to let's go back to the webinar sign up page. And what I can do is if I want to stick that in here, like maybe I'll say, let's see what I'm going to do. If I want to drop that payment button on there, I can just say, boom, 197 button dropped in there. If I want to go to my footer of this site, I can say, well, in the footer, I want to drop that retargeting pixel. So just by clicking around, and I can reuse this on different pages that I want. So now I'll save that. And if we go and view the page again, then see like it drops in the payment button if we want it, and then down below somewhere it'll drop in the that retargeting. Oh, I guess we can't see it, right? We can't see it because it's invisible. But if we were going to go and go back to the snippets just to make sure that it's there, we'll say retargeting pixel. So and we'll remove that part just to make sure it was all working. We refresh and see how down here, this is where it's going to drop the pixel. So we can just kind of click around and we know what to click on, what to ignore, and then all that stuff is all taken care of, and all that stuff is all done for us. So we can manage offsite links, or play around with old offers, drop in that first name like we saw, have the offer stack, all these things that are built in that geeks haven't thought of, marketers have thought of, and it's all at papertemplate.com. So check this out. we can make this thing called a sales letter, right? And we can say, let me go to my thing, and I can say, all right, well, for a while I had my opt-in page, webinar sign up, but now it's time to actually do something. I'm going to make a new sales page. So I click on and make this new sales page, and boom, in one click, it's just got all this stuff. And now I can say, well, let me just change what this is. Let me change the name of the modules, but now I just fill in the blank, and I will publish what I have here, and then I'll view the page that I've got. And cool, I've got all this cool stuff. I've got a payment button and all that. But how about this? I say, well, I want to mess with this page and I want to have everything ready to go, but I'm not ready to take orders yet. Here's what you do. You scroll down and you say, selling status, cart is closed, right? So we save that, go back to the web page, and then so now it's closed. Now you can mess around with whatever you want, but no one can actually click on your test button, right? But then if you say, all right, well, what I want to do is I want to open it back up, right? So now we're selling, but I only want to sell a few copies right now, right? I only want to sell this for 1 week. You can say, well, the cart closes in maybe a week from now, and I want it to close at 11:59 p.m. and my WordPress is set to GMT, but let me just save this. And actually, let me go and let me make it this Eastern time, right? So go to my thing and I'll say this is going to be, is there like a New York time? All right. So save those changes and I'll reload this. So now it's back open, but I want to say like, warning, this will be closed down soon, right? Have you seen those? So I'm going to edit this page, and then what I'll do is I'll go and I'll say the time and date your cart closes. So it'll just say this offer closes on this deadline, and then I'll update that, and then view the page. And so check this out. This offer closes on July 2nd, 11:59 Eastern time. So that's kind of getting there, right? But I really want to like push them to do it. I want them to like scroll down and say, I need to get it right now. So here's what we can do. We can scroll down to the bottom, just like editing a Word document. And I'm going to go to where, where's a good place? Let me go to right there. When you join membership newbie, and I'll say components countdown. All right. And we'll just have the one. Maybe we can add some more in later, but let me just save that. Let me show you what I just added. So I clicked around, and now it says, oh, better hurry. The seconds are ticking away. This offer is about to close. So pretty cool how we can just do that. And I mean, normally you'd have to go and use all these other plugins and grab all this different code, but because Lance and I are marketers who also happen to know computer stuff, this is the best of both worlds because now these are all the tools that we use. So it's basically like 10 different plugins in one, right? Because how many plugins would it take to, you'd have to grab one for a sales letter, one for an opt-in page, one to do that one-click webinar stuff. Then you'd have to get a copywriting course because like, well, the page looks good, but now I need to know like what I'm going to type in there. But with us, you don't need that because the swipe file is built in. You can add in your own swipe file, so that way you don't have to like buy some other product that's like, well, first I taught you copywriting, now let me show you all the covers of Cosmo magazine, right? Because now you can just go back to this sales page and say, I don't like this who else headline. I'm just going to go and say, I'm going to grab that one. And then I'm going to change the words there. If I say, you know, this bullet point, I'm just going to say bullet point. Let me just choose some of these, and then I'll fill in the blanks. No one else has this. No one else has thought of this. Everyone needs this, though. Then if you said, well, I'm going to have a way to cloak my links, I have to get a redirect plugin. If I want to have these things called legal pages, which are basically like Google requires you to have them now. If I zoom out a little bit. These things like the earnings and privacy policy, these are all these things where no one likes to do them, but just by having them, it'll give you a boost. So why worry about it? Now we've got them built in for you. So we have the legal pages, and I mean, if you were going to have someone design something from scratch, only for it to not convert as well as a paper template, go ahead. If you were going to have a copywriter who is going to just fill in some cookie cutter headlines anyway, well, go ahead. Or you can just click and it's done for a total value so far of $3,596. It's called Paper Template 2.0. It installs as a WordPress plugin, makes opt-in pages, sales letters, webinar pages, download pages, video pages. You can make as many as you want. on the same blog, so you can make like split testing. You can have like 10 opt-in pages. You can have like 3 different sales letters for depending on where your traffic's coming from. We have the pre-written stuff, like you saw. You click a button and it spits out this sales letter for you to edit. Click a button, puts out an opt-in page for you to edit. It's way easier to edit crap than air. Point and click headlines, add in your own swipe file, has legal forms installed on as many sites as you own with the ultimate version with 365 days of updates and support. All this and more, just $9.97. To have point and click copywriting, 60 proven headlines, 70 bullet points. You start off with a page written for you, and then you just delete or edit or tweak whatever you want for just $4.97. So how much would a copywriter cost? Thousands, plus they take a percentage of the royalty, and every time you make changes you have to go back through them. How about instead you just click and it's done? So our paper template plugin is just $397, and it's several instant businesses in a box. So what you can do is, you can go and buy this stuff called resale rights. If you've heard of that, many of them come with a web page, and then you can go and you can say, I'm going to make this a blank web page. So let me just kind of show you what that ends up with. This might be too advanced. Let me know if it is. We refresh and see how it's like back to the good old editing code. And so you can just paste in a whole pre-written web page and it just does it for you. Or you can get this to work with our special formatting. I can say, all right, how about instead I want to make this a cropped piece of paper. So I'll save that one. And so if you want to have no formatting, if you want to have the formatting we want, see how now it's like there's no corners. So you can like make these little subtle changes depending on exactly how you want it to look. And if you use it to set up 10 websites a day, pretty easy, right? Because you don't have to upload 10 files and go and check and change it here and test it there and edit code. It's like changing 10 words. Right? You change the words on the web page, you click save, and it's done. You can access and improve it anywhere in the world, any computer, laptop, iPhone, iPad, because it's WordPress. It's just $297 for a professionally written sales letter, high converting opt-in form, pre-made legal forms and web pages. You don't have to install stuff, video replay pages, download pages, webinar pages. You can make your whole funnel and focus on the big picture, not on the nuts and bolts, not on the mechanics. Just click and it's done. Just $197 to use it on as many sites as you personally own. You can use it on an existing blog. You saw early on we had the main blog and then the opt-in pages off to the side. And if you want, you can make it the front page as well. You can use it just for the point and click headlines on an unlimited number of sales letters, opt-in pages, all on the same blog. It's got a responsive theme. You saw that we can like change stuff and use a modern look and feel, take out the corners. So the question is, well, how many sites do you want to use it on? I personally think you'll use it in some way on every single one of your sites. If you have opt-in forms, webinar pages, sales letters, or you've been held back because that sounded too complicated, now you click and it's done. It's just $147 to use it on unlimited sites. If you use it on 1, 10, 100, 1,000 sites or more, it's all just the same price. It's not a typo. The price really is that low for now. So what's it worth to get a site online today, or a new site, or finish what you had, or bring an old site back to life, or buy resale rights for an instant income stream as opposed to playing around with code? Well, you always have options because you could try to create a template yourself or kludge together plugins, and some places will host it for you, but make sure you don't miss a payment because then they'll delete your page if you don't pay on time. That's not good. They charge a monthly fee because you have to go through them. Well, I'd rather, for just one single price of $127, give you this plugin, but how about this? Big surprise. It's not even $97 to use it on the whole blog or one page. It's not $77. It's not $67. It's not $57. It's just $47. So get it right now at papertemplate.com. All right? It's crazy how some people feel that 5 to 10 years being an entrepreneur and making this thing happen is a long time to achieve a level of success and wealth, but they still don't feel that 40 years at a 9-to-5 job is a long time to stay broke. It's your choice. Stay broke or make your own business and build it, and use the right tools to do it faster and better and make more money in less time so you can get back to what really matters in life. Use Paper Template to make that happen. Use Paper Template on as many sites as you personally own. It's just $47 today. Go to papertemplate.com. That's papertemplate.com. Try us out for 60 days. Get your money back if you don't like it for any reason or even for no reason at all. This works with any other WordPress plugin, so just imagine. Use it with a pop-up, split tester, shopping cart, SEO. It's WordPress. Just plop in the plugin you want and it does its job. That's at papertemplate.com, and I'll go there with you right now. It's papertemplate.com. That's papertemplate.com, and it just shows you everything we talked about today. Funny how it's a plain white piece of paper. You go there and then you see all the things and you see the screenshots and what it does. At the bottom, here's the place to get it. Ultimate version for unlimited sites, $47. Express version, 5 sites, $7. So I want you to get the $47 version because it has all the features you want: mobile responsive, point-and-click headlines, redirects, personalization, one-click webinars, all that good stuff, all in one single plugin. It's literally 5 or 10 plugins in one. So go right now to papertemplate.com. That's papertemplate.com. I mean, do I got to sit and wait here on the webinar for you to go? Come on, type it in, papertemplate.com, and secure your spot right now. Click the pay button and send $7 for the express version, $47 for the unlimited version. You can upgrade later if you want, so don't worry about that. But log into the site in the next few minutes at papertemplate.com. So go right now, papertemplate.com. It shows you what you'll get. It shows you the button to click on. You go there and you click on just $47. Actually, I'll click on it with you. Papertemplate.com, scroll to the bottom, click on just $47, and then it will redirect you to a place to check out. You might have seen this thing called PayPal. You fill in your details, or if you have a credit or debit card, you fill that in. Once that's done, you'll be sent to our members area. We can download the plugin and get back to that anytime you want to set up a new site. Anytime you want to make an opt-in page, sales letter, webinar page, you log into that site and get the plugin. But to get it, it's at papertemplate.com. papertemplate.com. We're going to close this call down right now, so make sure you got it. Make sure you got it written down, circled, underlined, highlighted, and you've also opened it up in your browser. Go ahead and do it right now. Go to papertemplate.com. I'm Robert Plank from papertemplate.com, and thank you.